Okay, welcome to the research platform. Angelo Dube here, welcoming you back. On this platform, we discuss all things related to research, particularly from the Global South. Why are we doing that? Because the Global South has been neglected, but most tragically, it has neglected itself. It continues to do so, even after regaining its independence from the colonial powers of the North. That is why we then create these platforms to say, if the Global South is to ever rise back to its former glory, the Global South must stop neglecting itself. It must engage, it must create platforms, it must share, it must pay it forward. Angelo Dube here, welcoming you back. Today, we're discussing what we call a proposal in the academic sector. What is a proposal? It's that document that you will do before you embark on a full thesis. So in other words, it precedes your entire research project. It lays out the roadmap. It lays out the plan, the time frame, the methodology, the how, the what, the why. That is the proposal. I'm discussing it here today because it has been known to give students flames. It shows them flames. Now, how we train some of our students sometimes is in our postgraduate modules. We then give them, instead of a once-off assignment, we give them assignment broken into two, where the first assignment is the development of a proposal. The second one is the full assignment. So the first one works as a platform to correct, to educate, to train, to guide on what a proposal must look like, what must go into it, and what must be left out of it. So let's go ahead and look at what are the key things when you're dealing with a proposal. My approach to a proposal is quite simple. This is how I train most of my students, and this has worked for me over years. I've used the same model again and again and again. I've improved it slightly here and there, but it's largely applicable across, research in the legal sector, whether it's, public law or private law or any other field of law. It has worked wonderfully over years. I often urge the student at the very beginning that before they come to me, they must find, and these are available online these days, that's the beauty of it, find a number of theses that have been put up online, whether it's a master's thesis or a PhD thesis, depending on what the student is, at what level the student is. If they're a master's student, I urge them to go and look for a master's thesis. If they're a doctoral student, I urge them to go and look for a PhD thesis and see how that other author, or maybe 3 or 4 authors, have actually packaged their proposals, which will be, in that context, their chapter 1s. So once the student can see that, they're now ready to begin to engage with me on how to, develop a proposal. I usually urge a student to, go as wide as possible, but largely see how fellow graduates from their own institution have produced their chapter 1, because their chapter 1 was at some point their proposal. So that will give this particular student an idea on where to start and how to go about doing things. So once they've done that, I also urge them to read widely with a view to increasing their bibliography, with a view to strengthening their citation as they go along, with the development of that particular proposal. And then I tell the student the key things I expect them to have in their proposal. And almost all of them think that I'm going to be asking them for a topic, and they rush to give me that topic. And I tell them, stop, I'm not interested in your topic, just give me the broad area within which we are studying. The topic that you're going to formulate now is a working topic or a working title. It's just going to be there tentatively. At some point we have to file, the necessary application to change that into a more newer and more refined and more permanent topic. So at the beginning, I don't have much interest in your topic. I then tell the student, I want to see, number one, an introduction, where you set out clearly what you're studying, why you're studying it, and what's your point of departure. It's just a brief introduction. It doesn't have to be too long. I have received proposals running up to 60 pages. I think the one that I received that really worked on my nerves was a 120-page proposal, which I promptly sent back to the student without reading it, and I said, listen, I need at most 30 pages, nothing more than 30 pages. Whatever I've been saying in that 130 pages, cut it down. I need 30 only. Because whatever else is there is nonsense. Cut it out. So that's where we begin. That's why I'm saying it's a brief introduction. It must be concise, it must be brief. You shouldn't be waffling all over the place. Be precise, be straight to the point, don't be voluminous. So tell us why we are doing this study, why it's important, what's the point of departure here. Then the next critical thing in my framework of a proposal that I want to see from a student is the research question or questions. Now, the research question is the controversy which is there in that field, which has prompted you to do the thesis. With your thesis, you are trying to remedy that problem, trying to remedy that controversy that exists. So in other words, you can't set out to study something which is not controversial, which does not present a problem. I sometimes get proposals with 10 research questions. No, those are not research questions. I don't know what they are. You will have one research question. Depending on how you design your study, there may be 2. Sometimes I encourage my students to just focus on one research question, accompanied by between 1 and 3 sub-research questions. Anything higher than that, you are really shooting yourself in the foot. Your study is too broad. It cannot be done. It just can't be done. Abandon it. So when you design the research question, you're posing the question, what is the legal controversy that exists in my chosen area of law, which I'm trying to remedy with this research? So remember, the research question is the pillar, the central pillar or theme of your work. Everything revolves around your research question throughout to the last chapter. So all you'll be doing for every chapter, you'll be trying to answer the research question bit by bit until you get to the end. That is why you can never have 10 research questions. Now remember, your research questions in my scheme of research development is that you have a topic, but remember the topic will come at the end. But let's assume it's there for now. You have a topic which connects directly to your research question. Your research question then branches out into maybe 4 sub-branches. Those sub-branches will be called your objectives. What do you intend to do with these things? Some people call it aims and objectives. It's a question of semantics, really. I just call them objectives. I don't really have a problem with what you call it, as long as you can explain to me that that's exactly where you lay out your objectives. So your objectives will branch out from your research question into like 4 or 5 sub-branches there. So it's clear that your objectives are informed by your research question or research questions. The objectives are what informs the reader, what you as a researcher intend to do in this particular study. What do you seek to achieve? Remember that research is about contributing new knowledge. So the objectives must show us that by you doing this, you will be creating new knowledge. Now quickly, let me go back to a research question. I said that it shouldn't be too broad. It shouldn't have too many because your study will be too broad. Again, don't be too narrow so that your research question can be answered with a yes or a no, or with one paragraph. For example, if your research question was, does the right to freedom of expression apply to both citizens and non-citizens in South Africa? Your answer there is a simple yes, and that's the end of your study. That's why that cannot be a research question. Similarly, the research question must not be abstract or academic. In other words, you can't be making us sit out here and read a thesis where you are arguing whether an alien who visits Earth and impregnates a human person or gets impregnated by an earthling, whether that alien has custody rights over the child. I mean, it's not even real. It hasn't happened. It's not even. There's no likelihood of it happening. You cannot pose this research question. It serves no purpose. It has nothing to knowledge. You can't have a research question like that. So your research question must be real, must be measurable. Must be answerable, must be capable of being answered. You can't just wake up and say, what happens? What would happen if you would wake up one day and the sun refuses to rise? That's not a question. Can't be researching on that. So, but yeah, moving on. Then I need to see a provisional literature review. Provisional. Because at proposal level, your literature review is provisional. It's still going to develop, to expand, to change. This is where you demonstrate your research prowess. This is where you demonstrate your skills, that you can engage with the various writings on the subject. This is where the committee that must approve your proposal, this is where they focus. Does this person know what they're talking about? For instance, let's say you were writing on, obligations of states in international law, and you don't even cite the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties. Can we say, really, as a committee, that you know what you're doing, or that you are ready for this? We can't. We'll have to decline you because you don't even know the key instruments, the fundamental instruments, the fundamental pieces of law in that area that you're trying to study. You're going to produce a substandard piece of work, and you will put the name of the university into disrepute. You won't cope. The literature review is where you demonstrate your prowess. You demonstrate that you are ready. You're in touch with the field that you're supposed to be researching on. That's what the literature review is about. It shows the committee that must approve your proposal that you have sufficient material to undertake this research to completion. For instance, if your literature review comprises of Wikipedia, Google, New York Times, IOL, News 24, Al Jazeera, honestly, you're not ready. You must leave this thing alone. Go back and read. Come back when you're ready. You can't finish a thesis. Oh, while I'm at it, you will never do the injustice to yourself of citing Wikipedia. Not only does it annoy the person who is assessing your work, it just costs you a lot of marks. It's unethical, it's unscholarly, it's an unreliable source, because anyone sitting at a taxi rank board somewhere on any given day can go into Wikipedia and update Wikipedia, and you are going to come in trying to produce new knowledge, and you're going to be relying on that not so authoritative source called Wikipedia. It will cost you. Stay away from Wikipedia. The next thing I would need to see in your proposal is your chapter breakdown. Now, even at that level, you need to have the road map. It's like you're traveling from Johannesburg to Cape Town. You need to show me that you know that you're either using the N14 to Uppington and then all the way to the N7 back to Cape Town, or you've chosen to use the November 1 via Bloemfontein, or you've chosen to use the November 2 via Durban. But if you can't show me that, it means you don't know where you're going. What do I mean? You need to show me that you know what chapter 1 looks like, chapter 2 looks like, chapter 3 looks like, chapter 4 looks like. What is each chapter dealing with? If you can't detail it in your section called the chapter breakdown, you're not ready to do that particular research, that particular thesis, whether it's at master's level or a doctorate level. So a chapter breakdown is the roadmap. It's a clear picture of where you're going with this. If you can't see that roadmap, you can't see where you're going. You can't be saying, I'm going to Cape Town, I'll be using the November 14 via Uppington, and then suddenly I'll be in Port Elizabeth, and then suddenly I'll be in Bloemfontein. Like, why using 3 highways to get to Cape Town when all of them do not meet until at least 2 of them get to Cape Town, where that's where they meet? It shows you that you're confused. So the chapter breakdown is your roadmap. What are you trying to do? What will you be doing in chapter 4? What will chapter 5 deal with? Is there a thread running through your chapters? Are these chapters talking to the objectives? Are the objectives talking to the research questions? Is the research question reflected in your title? That's the structure I want to see. Other than that, the one other thing that I tell my students to do is to avoid including what they call a hypothesis. I don't want to see a hypothesis in a proposal. That's my preference. Other people want to see it, but I prefer not to see it. What are you hypothesizing? Nothing. You're not in a laboratory. You're not collecting raw data and analyzing. There's nothing to make a hypothesis about. Leave it alone. We're in law. As long as you tell me what you're going to be doing and you go ahead and do it, you have yourself a proposal. All right, folks, that's the long and short of it, how to develop a proposal. I hope this was helpful. Leave comments below if you want me to elaborate more on particular elements of the proposal, and give me feedback. We're all about feedback. We can only improve this if we get feedback from you guys. I've supervised a number of students. Perhaps you do it differently. Give me feedback on how you do it. You know, perhaps you are a recent graduate. Give me feedback. Perhaps I want to supervise you. Give me feedback. I want to see feedback, because the people out there must see that we're making them consume things which are workable, things which they can rely on. The Global South will rise again, and it will contribute to global generation of knowledge. The Global South will write about itself. It will not necessarily be a consumer of information that's written about it. And it only happens if we start using platforms like this, and we sustain them, and we support them, and we stand together, bound together in our Africanness. Africa will rise again. The past glory of this continent shall be seen again. The Global South shall once again be the center of knowledge, like that Africa of old, where we had those arithmetic calculations that gave us the pyramids. That Africa where we studied the cosmos. That Africa where we studied medicine. That Africa where we performed brain surgeries prior to us being colonized. We will only rise if we take to platforms like this and we share our knowledge as Africans. Maibuye, Africa. Till next time, goodbye.